And welcome back. Suicide is a national health problem and the leading cause of death in the United States. In New York, suicide is the 12th leading cause of death. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention is a voluntary health organization giving those affected by suicide a nationwide community empowered by research, education, and advocacy to take action. Joining us now to share more details is lost survivor at AFSP National Chapter Leadership Council, Dionne Monsanto. And we thank you, Dionne, for joining us. And as we talk about the issue of suicide, a lot of people, especially in our community, have been gripped by the death of Ian, the son, I should say, of actress Regina King. Talk to us a little bit about how suicide has really taken this emerging growth across our United States.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. What I have to say, and of course, my loss goes out to anyone that loses anyone to suicide. So right now, currently on our hearts is Ian and Regina King. It is something that is not spoken about enough. And this is why when we do a lot of our communications, we talk about bringing it out of the darkness. We have out of the darkness walks. And there's so much shame and stigma associated with any death by suicide that people won't talk about it. And you can't heal what's in the darkness. And it has to come out so it comes into the light. We're dealing with our mental health issues, dealing with our physical health issues, and helping people see that their mental health is a part of their physical health. So it is a physical crisis. And suicides can be prevented if we're really clear on learning about what we are looking for. What are the signs? So it's the organization itself, national organization, was founded, if I remember correctly. And as you stated, leading a private organization that is a nonprofit that focuses on the research. So you're taking actual research and studies and taking doctors and funding the research to get an understanding of what's different. And some of the things that we've learned is that the brains and function and form of a person that dies by suicide is actually different. That 1 in 5 people do have a mental health challenge that they may be dealing with that may or may not be diagnosed. So if we have people that are living in the world, we're in a global pandemic, things are particularly challenging and stressful. And if we're not dealing with our mental health in a really active, engaged way, when crises come up, there's a convergence of things that happen, environmental things that happen, health things that may happen. Maybe you have a history of suicide in your family. Maybe you have a history of depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, and all these things that we don't talk about. I often share that until prior to my personal loss, I was not aware of the various mental health history and challenges in my family. So these are things that we all need to talk about and be aware of. Like right now, Daren, if I were to ask you who in your family has high blood pressure, who has diabetes, who has cancer, you would run that off without thinking about it.
Right. And I would miss probably if you asked me the question about mental health and mental illness, it may not be the first thing that actually comes to mind. So walk me through this, because a lot of people do miss, and they do miss simply because not noticing warning signs, not noticing some of the risk factors involved. So talk to us about what are some of the warning signs that an everyday person could possibly miss in the life of someone else. I think about the conversation that was had earlier when we talked about Ian and Regina King, and media went back and looked at some of his social media posts, and they seemed to be rather positive, like he was looking forward to a great career, but yet and still he takes his own life. So there's some warning signs that possibly could be missed.
Yes, thank you for asking that. So what we do, and I'm going to link it to an education, because what I will say now will be a soundbite, but we do have a much longer education. We, as in the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, we have a training called Talk Saves Lives. And in a part of that training, we really go into it in depth. But the shorter aspect of what you're looking for is people that are having thoughts of suicide, experiencing suicidal ideation. They express that generally in 3 different ways. It'll fall into talk, behavior, or mood. So someone that's considering suicide could casually say like, oh, they'll talk about it. And they might say it directly. They might make a joke like, oh, I should just kill myself. So if someone makes a joke about ending their life, you should take it seriously. Even if they're mentioning things like, oh, we have a language around certain things that is sometimes negative and harsh. So if somebody says something like that, and I've experienced this with someone in a godchild posted on social media, I just want to end it all. Like, what do you mean? And then they say, oh, I was just joking. Let's talk privately. I want to understand why you would use those words. So having a private conversation. And then behavior. If somebody loves dancing and they stop dancing, somebody loves sleeping and they're not sleeping, if the behavior, as you know, that person is changed drastically, if you have someone that's uncommonly happy to being uncommonly sad, someone that's extremely talkative that becomes silent, if they're isolating from others. So if something different in their mood, in their behavior changes, something that it's a signal. So there's talk and there's behavior, and then their mood. If there's suddenly, I'm a talkative person, I'm a smiley person. So if someone sees me and it's like, you're really quiet, that would be a distinctive change in terms of me. Why are you so quiet? How come you're not going to dance class? How come you're not going to yoga? What's going on? You've been different than you normally are. So it's not any one thing. We definitely, research has shown there's no one reason that someone ends their life. It's generally a combination or a convergence of different things. But for us, as the person outside, what we'll notice is differences in what they say, difference in how they behave, and their mood. So talk, mood, and behavior. And some things can be very subtle. They can be very subtle, but there's also this gut feeling. We as adults have lived long enough to been in situations where you feel like something is off. So when you get that little twinge, trust your gut and go like, only because it's you and I speaking, I'll say, Daren, it's like, Daren, you haven't been yourself lately. I haven't seen you around. We haven't gone out. What's going on? I mean, maybe everything's okay. I just want to check in on you and find out what's going on because you just haven't been yourself. And it could be nothing.
Right. But a check-in can be all the difference, in the world. And when we look at statistics right now, the statistics are quite alarming. And for our viewers, when we look at New York suicide, the 12th leading cause of death, the second leading cause of death for ages 10 to 34, the fourth leading cause of death for ages 35 to 54, ninth leading cause of death for ages 55 to 64, and the 18th leading cause of death for ages 65 and older. So this is something that is becoming more prevalent in our society. And I know, Dionne, you talked a little bit about yourself being a loss survivor, but walk us through your experience. I mean, did you really miss warning signs, or was it something that you possibly saw, but you ignored? How did it go for you?
Thank you so much for asking that. I always struggle when I'm speaking about suicide as a whole to share my personal story. I lost my daughter, teenage daughter, and you did mention her statistic in terms of it being the second leading cause of death for young people. She was 15 years of age, and there were things that I saw and I didn't fully understand. So I would like to believe that with the education and the awareness that I have now, almost 11 years later, there were things that I wasn't aware of. Something that we have in our larger Talk Saves Lives presentation talks about people giving away precious items, things that are really important to them, or calling to say farewell, or calling to say, or thanking you. If I say, Daren, so specifically with my daughter Seaway, she had a dress. She had this phenomenal dress that she begged me for. And moms, it was like, you're a teenager. Why am I spending $80 on a dress for you, right? We're going back over 10 years. It's a lot of money for a teenage girl. Your body's going to change. I'm like, $80? And she lobbied and she pitched and she was at all the reasons. You can wear it 10 different ways. I could wear it at this and I can do it at that. And da, da, da. Even as I'm speaking to you, I see a picture of her behind my laptop that she's wearing this dress. But she gave me that dress before she died. And I looked at her. I'm like, why are you love this dress? And she's like, Mommy, my room is a mess and you'll know where to find it. I was like, really smart on her feet with the response. And we're like, oh, you're going to know where to find it when I want to wear it. And I was like, oh yeah, because that room is something. So you're right. So I took it. I still haven't worn it. We're about the same size, and I put it away in my closet. And it was a long time later before that even came up as she did give me something special. And when we went to clean out her room, because when I love my child, pigsty, horrible, things everywhere, just exploded. Her room was clean. She had cleaned her room. It was organized. Like, so there was a part of her in retrospect, almost 11 years later, that was putting things in order.
Right.
When she left the house, she left her keys. She left certain items, like she was clear she wasn't coming back. But for me, I'd be like, oh, she forgot her keys. Right?
Yeah. It's amazing to think some of the simple things that we can sometimes look past. But let me get an opportunity for you to be able to share, because there are resources available for families. We talked about the warning signs. We talked about this very quickly before we wrap. Please allow people the opportunity to know what resources are quickly available for them if they encounter somebody like this, because sometimes this is something that you just can't handle on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I will say it's not just sometimes. You cannot handle it on your own. You should not keep it to yourself. There is a village of support, even if it's not your personal village. This is a global village. The AFSP is a national organization. We have chapters in all 50 states. And specifically, I started volunteering with AFSP in 2009 after my daughter first attempted suicide. And then I got better about and learning and growing with her. She completed her suicide in 2011, but the walks were helpful. So when you go to the website, you'll see that there's an area to learn about walks. But if you're concerned, the website, the link that I love telling people about the most is Get Help. So if you go to AFSP Get Help, you'll see a link for I'm thinking about ending my life. You'll see a link to I lost someone. There's another link that's for if you're concerned about someone. People think that if they're calling the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, it's only if you're thinking about suicide. But if I'm concerned about someone, that's when you call as well. You'll call and you'll get resources. And since it's a national number, maybe you're watching this and you're visiting someone in New York and you actually live in Atlanta. So you need to know what the resources are in Georgia. You need to know what the resources are in Hawaii, in Puerto Rico, in Wisconsin. You'll go to the website, you can type in your zip. And if you're a loss survivor, such as myself, you can be matched with someone that has experienced a similar loss. We have something called Healing Conversations, and I was trained in that. So now when I go out, I am able to have conversations with people who have had a similar loss. So if someone, using this unfortunate example of Regina King, if she requested support, she would be matched with someone like me that also lost a child. So a parent would be matched with a parent. If someone lost their a sibling. So we try as hard as possible to have a match, so you can have a conversation with someone at least 2 years away from their loss to give you some ideas on support. So volunteering with the organization was tremendous healing for me, and then helping and supporting others. Young people, so Talk Saves Lives is one of the training programs. So if you're an ally to the cause, you can learn. And I'm the chair for the education committee for our chapter to deliver these presentations and learn the stats. You can volunteer, whatever skill set you have. There's somewhere in the organization that it's needed, but there's definitive support by going to the website. If you're thinking about suicide, if you're concerned about someone, and if you've lost someone. Survivor Day is a big thing that we do every year, and it's always the Saturday before Thanksgiving. So that would be, I guess, the third Saturday of every November. We have a few hours event with a public speaker, a film, and lots of education where people come together for International Survivor of Suicide Loss Day. And for people that don't come out, even pre-pandemic, we had something that would happen online that involved different countries' participation, because internationally, we lose 800,000 people per year, and we know that number is underrepresented.
I got to run here on this one though, but thank you so much for taking the time, sharing your story, and not just sharing your story, but really giving us the necessary resources and tips. It's something that is underreported, but it's so many people find themselves dealing with this experience. And I want to thank you for taking the time and being with us here, Dionne C. Monsanto. Thank you for being with us.
My pleasure, Daren.
Well, Dionne C. Monsanto, got to thank you so much for taking the time of sharing your story and really being able to help others. As we said, suicide is a number that is rising in our community, very prevalent across America, the second leading cause of death in America. We want people to become more informed. And so as we do that, we want to say, if you want more information, please visit their website at www.afsp.org/NYC, and then follow them on social media at AFSPNYC. Have more show coming up. Don't go anywhere. Open continues right after this.